Can you be leptin resistant even if you follow a carnivore diet, a keto diet? What about a pro-metabolic diet? We're going to talk about all of those today and more, so stay tuned. Welcome back. My name is Sarah. This is the Sarah Kleiner Wellness YouTube channel. Today, I am recording another short video, again, here on Zoom. I promise I'm going to get my nicer camera out one of these days, but hopefully the information I'm putting out is helpful. If it is, make sure to leave me a comment and hit the like button. It will help to get the video out to more people. But this is a question I get a lot, especially since I have been talking about leptin resistance for the last 2 years now. I was actually introduced to the idea of leptin resistance when I spoke with Dr. Jack Cruz when I was going through my own fertility journey. So I attribute a lot of my growth, learning, and knowledge to the work of Dr. Cruz. He has an amazing Patreon, an amazing blog, and I have done a lot of deeper self study with some of his proteges, different programs to learn more about circadian health, circadian biology, and quantum biology since that initial conversation 2 years ago. So, my personal journey with leptin resistance was that I actually was leptin resistant even on a carnivore diet. So, how do we become leptin resistant in the first place? And what are some of the symptoms? Just a quick little overview of that. Leptin resistance is actually when the stored energy on your body, be it your body fat or the stored glucose in the liver, is not communicating properly with your brain. And as a result, your thyroid downregulates. You can't rely upon your appetite. Your immune system can become dysregulated. A lot of people will have thyroid issues, even thyroid antibodies that will show up, Hashimoto's, conditions like that. You will also have issues with insulin, with your weight, and mood issues. So, leptin isn't just a fat hormone, it affects so many systems of the body, even your bone health, your heart health. All of these things are affected by leptin. Low leptin has also been associated with depression, anxiety. Elevated leptin has been associated with all kinds of autoimmune conditions, heart conditions, of course, obesity. And you can be leptin resistant, but not insulin resistant. It's kind of like a pre-diabetes. That's where I was. And then if you are insulin resistant, then you're leptin resistant by default. So I hope that that kind of sums up a little bit of that. And when you're leptin resistant, essentially losing weight is really, really hard. And hormone issues are rampant. So having infertility was my first clue that I had some sort of leptin resistance. And I had no idea about this until I talked with Dr. Cruz. Now, the hormone leptin wasn't actually really discovered and started to be studied until 1994. So even though that's a while ago, almost, 30 years ago, believe it or not, for me, a 80s baby is like, what? That was 30 years ago. But yeah, that was 30 years ago. But a lot of the medical community still hasn't caught up and caught on to this idea of leptin. Again, Dr. Jack Cruz has some really, really great information on leptin and how it actually begins in the eye. It is a problem where we are not getting the correct signals, and leptin is a master circadian signaling hormone. So our body is just not getting the correct signals. And so regulating our weight, our appetite, our energy levels, thyroid, hormones, all of those things become a major issue. You can struggle with hormone imbalance if you're of reproductive age, which I was and am. You can struggle with hormone imbalance if you are menopausal. And you can struggle with hormone imbalance if you haven't even begun to have a reproductive cycle or if you're a man. So everyone can have leptin resistance. And I think that it's a really huge problem. Again, it happens before someone actually becomes insulin resistant. So it's a precursor. Now, again, going back to my original topic, can you struggle with leptin resistance if you are carnivore, keto? And then, yes, we're going to talk about pro metabolic too, because this is a diet a lot of people jump to after they've been carnivore or keto for a while because they're scared. And then it sometimes ends up causing more harm than good. A lot of times, I'll be honest with you. So carnivore and keto, yes. Here is what ends up happening a lot of times and what happened with me on carnivore and keto. I did it straight for 2 years because it felt really good. A lot of my issues were gone. Gut issues, joint pain, brain fog, mental health. Awesome. Felt great, right? Hormones, I thought were okay, right? But they actually weren't because I couldn't get or stay pregnant. And my weight had gone up. I had gained 20 pounds seemingly out of nowhere, not making huge dietary changes, not even cheating on carnivore. I had been strict carnivore. And all of a sudden, I have this extra 20 pounds and I'm trying to do more fasting, trying to do more, just eat beef, don't eat dairy, all the tricks that we do high protein, do high fat, do low fat, but stay carnivore. And what ends up happening, this happens with keto as well, is the body is kind of in this state where our metabolism is being a bit suppressed and it's only in one state. We never go kind of in and out of ketosis. We are not burning any glucose for fuel. And am I saying that you need to, again, bounce to the other side and do repeat? Definitely not. And does this happen for everyone? No. So if you're doing one of these diets and you're doing really well and you've been doing it for a really long time, you're doing really well, then just ignore this whole video, ignore this whole conversation, and go on with your life. But if you are following carnivore or keto and you're like, I'm gaining weight, it's seeming like it's coming out of nowhere. The more I fast, the more restrictive I get. This problem is not changing. The more exercise and activity that I add, this problem is not changing. So the metabolism with leptin resistance, again, especially if you've done carnivore keto long term, can get into this place where it's only doing ketosis. You're not ever jumping and doing glucose, right? You're never eating, your body doesn't know how to utilize the carbs for fuel. And as a result, the thyroid begins to downregulate. And then the other part of this, right? So that's one part, but the other part of it is the meal timing issue. So a lot of people end up skipping breakfast, intermittent fasting, having coffee for breakfast. And they do this as a way to manage their weight on these diets as well, because again, thyroid starts to slow down and we have to fast more, restrict more, exercise more, and able to either maintain the weight or to stop a big weight gain. And so again, we're doing more of these things and it's creating more of a leptin resistant situation. Our thyroid has downregulated and we're skipping breakfast. So the cortisol becomes very dysregulated. So in the morning when you wake up, you want the first signal coming into your eyes to be natural light, to be sunlight, and to be then UVA light right after sunrise. This is going to tell your body to make an appropriate amount of cortisol for that time of day, for your thyroid hormones to come online, your sex hormones to come online. All of these metabolic processes begin with that light signal. In addition to the light signal, if you are not eating breakfast and you're chronically skipping breakfast, this can create a situation where cortisol is too high, right? We do want a cortisol rise in the morning. This is natural. This is normal for cortisol to go up. But if we're chronically skipping breakfast, the stress hormones, cortisol goes up too high, and that can create crashes later in the day, insomnia that night, and it just is like this negative feedback loop. And so leptin is supposed to dock to the hypothalamus every night between around 12 and 2 for everyone. And if your cortisol is dysregulated, then it's not going to happen, right? If you're waking up or you're not getting into that deep reparative restorative sleep during that time, that again, stored energy on your body is not communicating with your brain. I don't care how perfect your diet is. If your cortisol patterns are dysregulated, if your body's not making enough adequate melatonin, then this communication is not happening. And so a lot of people will come to me again with the situation where they've done carnivore keto for a long time with no breaks, with no cycles out, and they're really struggling and they're just getting more and more and more restrictive and nothing is working. All the meanwhile, their sleep issues are getting worse and it's really frustrating. And so the first thing I have people change in this situation is their morning light environment. And then blocking blue light after sunset is very important, and not eating after sunset. Those two things, blue light after sunset, as well as eating after sunset, is going to stop your body from making melatonin, which again is going to stop you from getting into that place where leptin can communicate with the hypothalamus. Does everyone need to add in carb cycling? Not necessarily, but I have found that it is helpful for a lot of people if they can utilize local seasonal carbs. And if it's wintertime, look at the more cellar stable type of things. And I have a program called the 21-day leptin reset that's going to walk you through your entire lifestyle of what you need to change from sunup to sundown. And then I have another program called quantum nutrition that some of that quantum nutrition information is in the leptin reset. But if you want to just do a full nutrition program and understand how to go in and out of ketosis, how to use it, how to use carnivore, how to use keto strategically, how to use carbohydrates strategically without binging, how to do it for your cycle, all of that's going to be in the quantum nutrition program. As always, as a viewer of the show, you can use the code podcast to save on any of my programs. Those are going to be linked down in the show notes for you. And actually, I have a Memorial Day sale going on as the day that I'm releasing this. And all of those Memorial Day specials are going to be linked. I have a lot of metabolism repair programs that are also available. So if you're in this situation and you're frustrated, check out either some of my free resources that'll be down there in the show notes, one of the repair bundles, or just a single course, quantum nutrition or 21-day leptin reset. Can be really helpful for getting you back online, because unfortunately, this is not being talked about a whole lot in the carnivore keto community, that people are starting to have this issue of just unexpected, unwanted weight gain, right? And this can even happen if you're not doing those diets too. If you're just kind of eating more of a paleo or just a healthy, balanced diet, if you're not respecting meal timing, if you're not respecting those cortisol melatonin patterns, and you're not getting your light environment correct, you can actually raise blood glucose and you can raise cortisol in the absence of food, just by exposing yourself to artificial light at night at the wrong times of day. This can create a cortisol issue. So working at that level of those master hormones is really, really, really important. Let's talk about pro-metabolic really quickly, because I did say I was going to talk about that. I don't think for most people this is a good solution. Number one, insulin competes with leptin for that docking space at the hypothalamus. So if you're eating a diet where you're constantly elevating your insulin, right? And a lot of people don't have the tolerance to eat all these carbs and sugars that the repeat people are saying you need for your thyroid. A lot of people, that's going to make them gain a lot of weight. Most people that come to me from those diets have gained 30, 40 pounds. They're super frustrated, and their hormones are even more screwed up. Their thyroid's even more screwed up because they're like, I'm going to swing completely the other way and do all these juices and sugar and fruit, and because my hormones and thyroid need glucose. You don't need that much. When I have people do a little bit of carb cycling, I'm talking about eating like a baked potato, maybe one meal out of your week, right? I'm not talking about let's go down to the local bakery and load up on ice cream and cookies and pie. Not a good solution for this problem. So I find that a lot of people that try to do this higher carb approach with repeat either end up in a worse off situation, more leptin resistant, and worse off hormones. This is just what I see clinically with people that come to me. So I don't recommend that. And a lot of times they'll tell you to eat a bedtime snack, which is going to elevate your insulin, and what competes with leptin for docking space at the hypothalamus? Insulin. And if you are eating too close to bedtime, you're blocking your body's ability to create melatonin. So not a recommendation that I give out. So I hope this has been helpful. I tried to keep it a broad overview. I'm going to do more of these short little just me talking videos. But just to answer the question at the beginning of the video, yes, you can absolutely struggle with leptin resistance, which is a weight loss resistance that also can really wreak havoc on your hormones, your thyroid, your immune system, your heart health, your bone health. All of these things can be affected by leptin resistance. And you can struggle with those things even on a really nutrient dense great diet, because we have to manipulate other things like macronutrient timing. We have to manipulate our light environment throughout the day, in the morning, as well as throughout the day and evening, in order to get our circadian rhythms back online, because leptin is a master circadian signaling hormone. And we have to look at our lifestyle and diet as a whole, not just boom, just do this diet and everything in your life is going to be perfect and solved. We have to look at everything as a whole, even our stress and trauma, because those things can absolutely downregulate our metabolism and thyroid as well. I hope this has been helpful, and I will see you next week for another short form video.